Hello everyone, my name is Ashok Bhatt and I'm currently a first year student at St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. Uh, I hope that your board exams are going well, and I also wish that with CUET being around the corner, that your preparation for the paper is in full flow and you're all ready and prepared for the next few months as the examination draws near. The platform was getting a number of queries regarding the general test, which happens to be a somewhat ambiguous paper as far as the syllabus is concerned, because there is no specific text that you need to refer to or perhaps prepare from the test, and because the questions can be asked from a diverse range of fields, and therefore they requested me to come to you and talk to you, and so I'm very happy to help you out. Of course, as far as the general test is concerned, the general test happens to be, as the name suggests, a very general paper. So there isn't any specific book, for example, the NCERT, that you can refer to. However, the syllabus that is being provided is very comprehensive. And even if you go by the syllabus, I think that you will cover a lot of the portion that is asked in the paper. Now, speaking from experience, I did appear in the general test examination of the 2022, which was the first CUET examination. And I scored a 99.99 percentile in the paper. My CUET paper, of course, was the last paper that I attempted in the series of examinations that I had in CUET. So as far as the syllabus is concerned, I'm sure that all of you have acquainted yourself with the syllabus of the general test. And as I like to categorize it into broadly into three categories. The first being the general test, the first being the general knowledge a portion of the examination, which deals with, say, your Indian history, Indian geography, national events, books and authors, countries, capitals, currencies. Currency happens to be somewhat unique because we got one of the questions on currency in our general test. You can get questions asked on sports, science and technology, the Indian national movement, awards and honors, and a number of other subjects. So it's all very general, as the name suggests. The second portion that comes in the general test is the current affairs section. Now, the current affairs questions are relatively less and they're relatively easier because you are asked, say, out of the 50 questions that you need to do out of the 60 questions that are given in the paper in a span of 1 hour. Not more than, I think, around 10 would come out of the current affairs section. Now, of course, this happens to be an idea that I got after appearing in the paper, and of course this does not mean that that will be the pattern that will be followed in every question paper. Of course, it's up to the examiners to set the pattern of the examination. But as far as I believe, the current affairs section is kept comparatively lesser, at least as it was in my paper. The current affairs, of course, you get questions as in to government schemes, or for example, important events that have happened in the recent past. So you're dealing with here national as well as international current affairs. To take a few examples, perhaps you can get asked on, say, the current Chief Justice of India. You will be asked on who was the chief guest at the Republic Day parade of India in this year. So I'm sure that you can get an idea that it's a very basic current affair questions, nothing too complex. And so even if you read the monthly recaps that are provided by a number of publishing houses as well as a number of magazines, you will be good to go. There's nothing too much that you need to prepare for the current affairs section. Perhaps the most daunting part of the paper, and perhaps even the scoring part of the paper, happens to be the third section, which is the general mental ability section, which deals with your verbal reasoning, quantitative ability, and with topics such as profit and loss, letter, symbols and series, coding, decoding, blood relations, direction test, say your numerical ability, dealing with time and work, partnerships, HCF, LCM. So it's all up till class 8th or class 10th mathematics, nothing too higher than that. But yes, what I would suggest, and perhaps what is the most advisable here, is to look up short tricks to handle these type of questions, because when you're appearing in a competitive examination such as CUET or perhaps any other competitive examination, what you need to be aware of is that time as well as correctness, as in accuracy, are both two very important and crucial factors. So you can take it like this. Say time and the accuracy of your answer are two reins of the chariot of the exam that you have in your hand, and you need to manage them both effectively and properly, such that letting one loose or letting one free would dismantle everything that you've done, or whatever has gone into the preparation very quickly. So of course, to manage time effectively and to deal with the large lot of questions that you need to do compulsorily in the paper, which is a fairly good choice. You're getting 50 questions out of 60, and they happen to be easy questions. You won't get to spend more than say 2 minutes at every question. There'll be some questions that you can just look at them. For example, the general knowledge or the current affairs, you can just look at them and you know the answer. That'll be very easy. You won't, of course, the solving part of the paper, which comes in quant, will take time, but of course not too much time if you have practiced enough. And again, yes, practice happens to be very important. I would suggest that you do a number of mock papers and practice papers too, because general knowledge and current affairs are two sections of the paper that, as I talked about, these are the ones that get polished, and perhaps you get better at them the more you practice, right? Of course, I'll also like to issue a note of caution here that you prepare for the current affairs and the general test on a much more basic level as a CUET, because you won't get, of course, very complex questions, right? So keep in mind the level of the paper, keep in mind the sample paper that is released by NTA, keep in mind the previous year question paper, and prepare accordingly, right? Do not overthink about it. Of course, it will be a very easy paper. I am confident about that. For us too, it was a fairly easy paper, and almost everybody was able to score very well. And perhaps general test also happens to be a very scoring paper. Scoring paper in the sense that because you have a certain idea, because yes, you've read the newspaper, you've read magazines, you've read monthly recaps, monthly reviews, so you can manage the general knowledge and the current affairs section pretty fairly. But the quant also happens to be very easy, so it's nothing too difficult, but yes, that requires practice. HCF, LCM, all these basic topics, menstruation, geometry, statistics, probability, the number system, algebra, all of these are the questions that you will get asked. The questions on age, as in this person was these many years old at the time, and they'll give you an equation that you'll have to form. So it will be very simple. And of course, statistics is very important because you get histograms, you get graphs to interpret. So yes, you should be able to handle those type of questions, because as far as these histograms and graphs are concerned, I think if I remember correctly, you also get case study type questions on that. So you'll get a question and you'll have a series of questions based on that, say around 5 questions. So if you're able to manage that, if you're able to crack the code there, of course 5 questions, you'll get full marks, 25 marks there are secured. However, if you're not able to do them, and even if one part goes wrong, the entire series of questions goes wrong. So yes, tread with caution. But of course, if you're well prepared for it, if you've practiced enough, and you go in and prepare and go in the examination hall with a cool mind, patient while attempting the paper, I'm sure that it won't be a problem at all. Now coming to the benefits actually of taking general test as one of your papers in CUET. The registration, of course, I'm sure that I hope that a majority of you would have filled general test as a paper in your CUET list of papers that you will be appearing for. But general test actually happens to be a very important and say a very easy paper because it's also very scoring, and therefore it makes the path to some of the most prestigious colleges in our country much more easier, and thus it facilitates your preparation in a certain way. For example, there is the BA program course in a number of colleges take one combination, that is type 2 combination, as in English plus a domain plus general test. So if you're able to score well in general test, I'm sure that'll add greatly to your combination, and it'll be a fairly easy road from there on. I myself appeared in the general test and happened to secure a very good score, which I am sure gave me a lot of confidence after appearing the paper, that I was safe and secure in certain senses. Yes, if something goes wrong here and there in any of my domain papers, the general test will come to my rescue. Apart from that, I would also like to add that the general test is a paper in which you get a lot of time if you've prepared well. You only need to approach the questions properly, as in meaning copying the values correctly and all of that being very basic things that you have to do. Current affairs and your general knowledge, yes. You can consult a number of books as far as general knowledge is concerned. You have a number of publishing houses that publish their general knowledge books. You can read up monthly recaps, yearly recaps. Now you have many coaching institutes who are releasing these short recaps of months over the current affairs. That would be of great help, because you do not need to read the newspaper per se every day to do well in the current affairs section. I'm sure that reading the monthly recaps would also suffice for the paper. General knowledge, of course, yes, it'll be a lot of basic things, right? So many a times you might not study something and it might appear and it might come in the paper, but with a little bit of intuitive thinking, you'll be able to manage it fairly well. Quant is something that I would request you all to focus a lot on, and perhaps even practice a lot, because it is a part of the question paper. It forms a majority of the questions in your question paper of the general test. And if you're able to manage that, I'm sure that nearly 50 to 60% of your paper will be able to you will be able to do it fairly well. Apart from that, I think general test is a very scoring paper. It's a relatively easier paper, and apart from the domain, yes, it is also a good way to boost your confidence in the sense that that every now and then you can practice a general test and because it's a fairly simple paper, so you don't need to refer to anything. Just go for the mock test, just go for the practice papers. I'm sure that you'll be able to do very well at it, and it'll add greatly to your performance in the examination. If you have any further queries, you can perhaps comment. You can perhaps write in the comment section. I'll be really grateful to you if you come up with your replies and